Hello. Welcome to Saint Talks 3, I believe this is. And today we are joined by a very special guest. Say hi.
Hello, guys. It's Azar, Commissioner of the Hive.
Yes. And today we are talking about a very interesting topic. So far, we are going to continue the theme of community and the more management side of Draft League. Eventually, we'll probably do some. By we, I mean I. Probably do more vids on individual play and prep. But for now, we are just going to focus on what I think that most people don't actually understand, which is the more business or like management side of Draft League. And today's video is about how to build and grow a community. Now, and that's why we have Azar here because he's the commissioner of the Hive, which is well known, I think, for just being one of the best community leagues there is, while maintaining a high level competition. So, can you quickly give us a recount of how the Hive came to be?
Okay, so we started on Skype, as most people do, just from YouTube comments, gathered a few people. And after a couple of seasons, we realized that Discord is better than Skype, so we moved here. And then once we finished our third season, we hosted a tournament. It's dead now. It's called Brawl for All, BFA, season 1, and it went quite well. And we met a lot of cool people. And I decided that we want to expand. So we had people like Jake, LeJohn, uh, Jack come from there. And after that, Johnny GB was one of the, uh, I guess, VIPs for the first Summer Showdown. And a lot of Hive participated in it, and we did quite well. So I asked GB to put our application form into the VIP plugin section, and from there we got a lot of traction on our invites, and so we could recruit a lot more people. So once we had enough people to make 3 leagues, I decided, uh, we would need something that's not the standard name, not the standard naming convention like APA or GBA or whatever it might be. I was tired of those. So I ended up with Hive, and it happened to fit perfectly for the 3 divisions. And then Beetle got a mega as well, so we could expand further.
Yeah, and I think that something that a lot of people, or at least the ones that have been here for long enough to have noticed at least, is that the Hive has definitely like changed dramatically in the server wise. I mean, I'm sure Azar, you remember like back in like I mean 2017 and like to the early to like all through 2018 and like it stopped like early 2019. Like the community was very different in terms
Mm-hmm.
of what was considered acceptable in terms of in terms of what people were allowed to say. I mean, there's a lot more slurs and and, like hard R's
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. So how's the Hive, since you guys have been around for so long, adjusted to what's accepted in the community?
So my mindset when I started the league was okay. So first of all, I'm an immigrant from Asia, so I wasn't really aware of the social conventions that were acceptable within the West. So I thought, okay, back home is like the hard R means basically nothing because there's no history of systemic oppression. We have barely any black people back in India. So I okay, my main thing is leading by example. It has always been. So when we first started out, I was a lot more edgy, and I thought it was funny to say slurs, and I am completely at fault for perpetuating that, and even defending my league when we went out of our way to be edgy and annoying in other servers. And it's been a long road. I think we've improved a lot. I think it's a lot more accepting now, and I like a lot of people do credit it to the quote unquote affluence, which is uh, me influencing how discourse is in the Hive server. But I think in general, everybody has grown up, and the the social discourse in general has improved to the point where most people are most people realize that saying slurs and being insensitive is just not good. So I think we're in a good place right now, and hopefully, uh, any other problems that we might have will be solved soon.
I think that's something that like it can safely be said about all these servers, because obviously Hive is at a position where it's obviously consisting of so many different people. I feel like a interesting thing about like Hive as a whole is that as people started to come out as transgender, uh, the amount of slurs that were accepted and like certain things that used to be common talk have kind of faded away, which I think is a interesting thing about the community that and how it's evolved over time. It also doesn't hurt that all the people that were back on Discord, from like way back, have also like you said, grown up. So we're really in a position where like a lot of people have matured to the point to understand that some of these things are not okay. They shouldn't be accepted on the internet if they're not accepted in life.
Yeah, true. I think leagues in general happen to be more. It's like 99% a boys' club. I I think there's very few girls in any server, and so it becomes very acceptable to say certain things, and those things can often bleed into real life. And I think uh, I think reducing that as much as possible within our community would be beneficial, not just for people on Discord, but the people who we talk to in real life as well. Because the things we say online or otherwise really affect our actions in real life.
That's for sure. Uh, Azar, what was it like though? Because obviously the Hive was like made out of all these small communities. Like how did you guys like how did you guys set the foundations and really like unite the communities into one? Was there like rifts in like the leadership process, or was it just like a smooth transition where like everybody just kind of accepted like you and the mock team as
Okay, so
as the
the
guys?
league, yeah, yeah. So the league that came before Hive was CBA, and it was run by me and Johnny GB, and we had very different ideas of how to run a league. For me, it was more community driven as it is now, and Johnny GB wanted to go more into the mandatory uploads, just more into being a YouTube league, more into getting a YouTube cloud and being popular. And I wasn't looking at it that way. In my mind, if you have a good community, that's all that matters. I feel like you're gonna reach your goals if you want to be competitive league. As long as you have a good community that has the similar goal in that you want to be competitive, you will get there. So those were our two differing viewpoints, and I would like to think that my viewpoint has come out on top in the sense that YouTube leagues are basically dead now. And Hive as a community, when we decided we wanted to be quote unquote good or competitive, we went out there and we did it. So yeah, apart from that, I don't think there's been a lot of problems with the mod team. Generally, I'm pretty easygoing, and but even for stuff like tiering and rules, etc., we generally go by voting, as you've seen. It's
Yeah.
community voted, so yeah, it's mostly democratic. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, I think that something that's unique to yourself and to an extent me as well is that we kind of took over communities that already existed. We just had to like build upon them to really like help these servers like take shape. Help them improve in a sense. Because when I took over OLT, it had already been commissioned by Reese, who was a fantastic commissioner at this time, and then there was already like an existing group of people that played in OT. I just needed to revitalize the league a little bit, and then obviously like you've been saying, you took all these communities and then made them into one like bigger community, but that community has been mostly around like like you guys have all been around since way back in the day, before like the majority of the community today actually came on to Discord. But obviously, Hive is still an invite lead and invite only league, and so is of course OT. So like, how would you like how would you describe the process to which the Hive adds new people? Because obviously, I think that's something that I'm sure you get a lot of. When can I get my Hive invite? How can I get a Hive invite? Like something to that effect. Like, what's the actual process like? How do you go about adding new people?
All right. So people are gonna hear this a lot in this interview or whatever it might be on in this video. But I value community over everything, in the sense that we don't take applications, and the only people I want added here are the ones that the people want added here. In the sense that if, for example, we have one of the ways to invite people is the auction, and we see a lot of hullabaloo when auction goes on, when people fight tooth and nail to get other people's honey so that they can invite their friend. That's the kind of spirit I want, where you're inviting this person not because they want to be here, it's because you want them to be here in order to make the community better. So if you want to get into Hive, I would just say, be friendly, be social, and eventually, if you're actually a good fit or a cool person to be around, you'll probably make your way here.
Sure. I think that's something like that is like so unique to the Hive server, is that like where it is now, where it's like especially focused on the community. Obviously, it wasn't exactly like this like a year ago. Back a year ago, it was still like all about it was still like mostly about the competition. Like obviously the community was still there, but it was way more like focused on competition versus community. Like as I've been in the server, it's interesting to see how like how we've added like so many great people. I mean, we have got like, since I've been around, we've added like people like Brown, Joel, and then recently, when people were lobbying for T Riches and Agronauts, like you said, those were all from the people. It was the people who were deciding, who would be good fits and add to this already existing community. Because I think that with all of these like leagues that like have great emphasis on the community, you always are looking at people that will add to your existing community regardless of their skill level or involvement in the actual draft scene. We're always looking for people that can be good fits, and just like as a whole.
Yeah.
I need to close my
I just want to explain how our direction as a community has shifted, or a league has shifted, in the sense that when we first came into the scene, and when we first started becoming more and more prominent, everybody's goal was to get clout. Like for example, Jake, he really wanted to get into the NPL minors. So when we got an opportunity to do a league war, we busted our ass to do well, and we did. We crushed them. And in the upcoming tours as well, people were very enthusiastic to represent the Hive name, even people who were not playing in the league and were just friends, because the community was so strong. People wanted to represent, and a lot of people who did well in tours had the Hive as their representative name in tours, which I think did a lot to improve our reputation as well. But I think it all comes down to how much people like being in that server, and that's what makes them shout out the league in every server, saying Hive is so cool, Hive's chat is so great, etc. So yeah, I think we have come to the point where people aren't that thirsty for clout or attention, and generally most people know that if someone's in the Hive, they're probably a cool person.
Yeah. How would you say though that how have you like built up the community as to it is today? I feel like obviously like people say affluence, you've affluenced quite a bit, but as a direction as a whole, like how do you think you've personally helped change the direction of your league, and as a result, you know, the whole influence the entire draft scene? Because obviously Hive is a collection of all kinds of different servers. Like how have you made changes to the server, or like the culture of the server, to
Uh,
make it what it is today?
okay, so you want to know how uh, I influenced the culture which spread to other communities as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the main thing if you want to do that is you got to be really active. So my job just involves sitting at a desk at work, and I basically do very little work. I get paid for nothing. I hope my employer doesn't hear this, but yeah, majority of the time I'm just on Discord. So if you search the top messages in Hive, it's me and Jake. And honestly, a lot of credit goes to Jake for this as well. He is always there to make conversations, and there's never a dull moment with him. And the same thing I think would apply to me. In general, people say I'm pretty good at conversations, and whenever I see anything that might be detrimental to the culture, as in if someone says some you know fake news or like on accident, even if someone says fake news or some super right wing stuff, I will generally be there to at least push back on that idea. And I generally bring up topics that allow discussion, like the recent Lapis uh, AMA. If you remember, I asked her questions that would lead to discussions. Most people don't realize it, but I am always looking to create good discourse and good discussion in the server that will lead to better cultural outcomes. So it's hard to explain without looking like a scheming psychopath. So I think that's all I'm gonna say is that I'm always looking out and trying to move the culture in a better direction.
Yeah, I think that what's interesting is that is that like uh as a whole, like when depending on, of course, where you're starting from in terms of the community, because obviously some people start in like some people have started from like websites just from the GBA Draft League website that used to be around, or some people just randomly join like random Discord servers, and then some people just start off right off the bat in like leagues now, such as like the Coliseum and stuff. But obviously every person has a very different like story as to how they're building their communities, which makes like this how to build a growing community question a little more difficult, because obviously obviously everybody has a little bit of a different answer to that question. For me personally, I would say that something that I felt like was necessary right off the bat was to establish like a very active community. Uh, where one of the first things I did when I took over OLT was that I immediately recruited people that weren't necessarily like well known in the community, but I added a lot of them at one go just to revitalize the activity of the league. And obviously Hive has always had a very active community as well. So would you agree that like one of the most important things to do like right off the bat is to recruit is to have like a very strong active community?
Yeah, definitely. That's all what I've always preached. When I made a guide like 2.5, 3 years ago, explaining how to have a successful league, I said the same thing. If you look at Hive, it has like nearly 5 million messages over our lifespan, and I think that's the most important thing. Generally, there's a lot of quote unquote throwaway leagues where people just play games. I think there's even been people trying to get an all-star league going. I think King Clyde tried to do one, but the reason it died is because no one cared about the server apart from just playing their games, and that's a fickle thing. It only lasts so long. So yeah, I would say at least if you cannot get uh, a bunch of people who always talk, I would say at least the mods and the admin should do, and the commissioner of course should do as much as possible uh, to generate conversations, drop links, bring up topics, ask questions, etc. So yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously there's more to just keeping a chat active than just that as well. But uh, how does the Hive go about picking their mod team and stuff? Because I know that I think it was last year where like there was like the applications for the newer mod team. Because there at one point I remember the Hive had like they had a mod team that really didn't do too much. I don't know if that's like the right way of saying it, but like,
Yeah.
there was definitely like a time where the mod team was a lot weaker than it is now. Like, how did that come about? Like how did you guys pick the right people for the job?
That's a difficult one. So when I first made the mod team, it was just people I trusted that cared about the server. But eventually, life goes on. People get busy, so the mod team started weakening, and there was less and less people putting in the work required. And those people are still in the mod chat as honorary members, but they don't do anything. So we had to uh, basically recruit people uh, to pick up the slack. When we did the mod applications, we got a bunch, and we looked at activity, and I also talked to a few of the applicants and determined, how much do they care about the league. I mean, everyone cares about the community, of course, and I'm always here to keep that going. But okay, personally, I don't care. I don't give a shit about mods. Like tomorrow, if tomorrow the league completely died, I wouldn't cry too much about it. So I was really looking for people who actually cared about the draft side of the community, and yeah, it's been good. All those people have been putting in work. Uh, Inversify is at military training right now, but he would also be putting in work if he was here. So yeah.
And I think that I feel like I've said this a few times too many now, but the Hive is really community based. So yeah, like honestly, most of the people in a Hive really don't care that much about the draft aspect of the Hive server itself. That's a misconception I think that newer people to the community don't understand yet. And it's hard to understand that unless you're actually in the Hive server itself.
Yeah, for sure.
But Hive is always at least since I've been around in a Hive, which is like late 2018. Uh, it's always been community than league, and if you can't, you know, accept that, then that's a huge problem. And obviously, there are some people that aren't as big on the league aspect as much anymore,
Hmm.
and they're obviously less active in Hive. But because Hive always has such active conversations, and there are always people that are interested, and stay and increasingly, have there's just always new stuff to talk about. And sometimes there's discussions about the colors of certain subjects. But because of that, I feel like the Hive has always got a certain energy to it where out of all the leagues that currently exist, I feel like the Hive could literally survive for years and years into the future still, and still be in a good position, provided the core members of the community stay intact, which is something really unique to Hive. I feel like not every league can say that.
Yeah, and we've also had a lot of meetups, which has also been really cool. I think even
For
even
sure.
some dead people have also had meetups because of Hive, and I think that's excellent. I hope to meet a lot more people when I visit the states as well. And I think once Corona ends, we will be scheduling a lot more meetups. I think some people are going to anime cons. Uh, yeah, I think John and Nader are planning a road trip as well. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. Uh, okay. Let's come back to the whole idea of how to build and grow a community. If somebody right now were to, like, if somebody trying to start up their own new league were to, try and start something up, what advice would you give them in terms of how to build how to build up?
Okay, so I have already talked a lot about how it is the role of the commissioner to set the tone, to drive conversation, and in general be active. So yeah, that's the first advice I would give people. personally, I have never really cared about competitiveness. I think that's something that people in the league have cared about, and we have achieved that. But it depends what your goals are. Uh, let's say if you just want a place that you can call your home, quote unquote, Discord home, whatever it might be, then yeah, just grab some friendly people and make sure it doesn't get too circle jerky. Make sure it doesn't get too toxic. Like you gotta uh, there's a lot of elements that are not noticeable unless you are really paying attention. Like someone might say a throwaway joke where they say the maybe say a slur, but what happens is that if you don't push back on it immediately, that can be a very pernicious element in the sense that other people can pick up on it, and it could be normalized, and it could also bleed out into the community. So as a commissioner, if you want to have a non-toxic atmosphere, of course, if you want to say slurs and stuff, then yeah, that's your prerogative. But if it is on a commissioner to stop any kinds of behavior that they don't deem acceptable. You should always be around to push back on ideas that you don't want in your league. I think that's the most important thing, because oftentimes a lot of leagues, even the Hive itself, has some people leave because shit was getting too toxic, or people weren't feeling comfortable being around some people. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing, apart from what everything that we've talked about regarding activity.
Sure. Okay. Well, I think we've had quite a bit of insightful conversation. Is there anything else that you want to add,
Yeah.
whether it be about the Hive or building a community or anything?
Okay. Before I go, I want to ask, what is your main what are your main steps in order to have a proper culture in OLT?
Uh, that's tough, but like I said, I pride myself in staying active. I feel like I've always been that guy that's always on Discord, whether or not it's actually a good thing or not. But like you said, I also agree that the commish, or at least the commish and the mod team, or like somebody in there has to continuously maintain that activity factor. Then it's all about adding the right people. Uh, Unlike Hive, obviously OLT is application based, but in the application, like, what people don't understand is that I don't want to sound boastful or anything, but I've personally been around Discord, and I'm also in like all of these league servers, so I will know like majority of the people that apply to the league. Like I would say like 80 or 90% of the apps, like, I usually know of from somewhere, or at least if I don't know, then there's always people I can ask to figure out like if you
Mm-hmm.
would be a good fit or not. And obviously, there are some people that are just hit and misses. Like some people are just instant hits, some people are misses. Like, it happens, but because I have like those connections, uh, I can try my best to make the right fits. And I think that this is something that people don't necessarily like understand. I feel like I addressed this like briefly in another video before this one, but
Mm-hmm.
adding the best people in terms of competitive play isn't always the right decision. There are a lot of great players that apply to like OLT all the time, but I don't always accept them because like I don't know, they'll be dead, or they'll cause up drama with the existing community, or like there's a lot of reasons that go into it. But it's all about maintaining and prospering the identity, or like the social culture of your league that already exists. I would say that that's way more important than ever looking into increasing the competition. Like, obviously, if your competition increases, that's always a good thing, but it should never really be the priority, because obviously without the community there is no league. No, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Like, it doesn't matter where you play, and that's always a rule, unspoken rule, but like it's always a rule that exists.
Yeah, I
And
just
from
want to say sorry. I
There
just
you
want to
go.
say it's not so much about preserving the culture. Culture always changes as time goes on. It's
It's
more
true,
about
yeah.
uh, you making sure as a leader and someone who has social clout in that community. So mods and admins and commissioner should make sure that the culture doesn't change in a toxic way.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
meant. You're right. Yeah. No, it's just building on the positive culture, and like obviously, there are new
Exactly.
trends on Discord and stuff that affect, affect certain like it affects the active environment. When new things are introduced and change, and new people come and go. But yeah, it's all about continue maintaining a good positive environment. That's what I was trying to say. As long as you have that, your league is, like I said, it'll be a good league.
Yeah. And before we finish off, I just want to say, for any new players listening, I don't. Okay, if you want to play competitively, honestly, just play tours. At this point, leagues are. I think personally, I think the leagues are a dying medium, and I think moving to tours and team tours in general is a better look for the draft scene. But if you really do want a league, I would say just either make your own or find a good friend who can recommend you to a league that can feel like home. That I don't think you need to get into one of the top dogs to have a good time on Discord or in the draft community. If you really want to compete, there's always this isn't like the real world where all the big dogs are locked behind doors and ivory towers. This you can talk to everybody, network, make friends, and yeah, have a good time. You don't have to worry about getting into big leagues. That's all.
I agree that for sure. But if you really do want to get into like the big leagues, like if that's your goal and you've already pre-decided, like if you already decided that's your goal, just try to maintain a good positive presence on Discord, because that's how you get noticed most of all. It doesn't really matter like how great of a player you are, like we've said, or like how like amazingly active you are. As long as you bring a positive energy, like and like a positive like as long as we know that you won't be like AIDS or anything, and you'll bring something good to the league, you are significantly more likely to be added than to all the bigger communities. And that is always the priority.
Even the most competitive league, that is LD, even though they do want players who are skilled, they often add people who aren't that skilled, and they end up replacing in some of the lower tier leagues. And if you really do want to compete, being a nice guy is the best way. Just being a cool person in general, you can get into even the most competitive league, and you can work your way up if you really want to compete. So yeah, there is no elitism here. It's just if you're cool, you will eventually make your way into a good server that you can call home. So yeah, that's all.
And with that note, I think we're going to wrap it up.
Before I finish, sorry, can I just give
Okay, yeah,
a shout out to people?
You go.
Sorry, okay. I just want to give a shout out to Seidel and Turk for coining for coining the term affluence, because even I didn't know what I was doing to moderate the culture of the community until they pointed it out, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe that is a thing, and maybe I will embrace it. So yeah, shout out to Seidel and Turk.
And while we're at it, might as well shout out the Mode Bros. It's Brown's birthday. So
happy birthday, Brown.
Yeah. Okay. But on that note, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe. Once again, thank you so much, Azar, for joining this video. It was a lot of fun talking to you. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.